Thanks for tuning in on this Monday to the House of Orange Sports Channel. Frank Rock coming at you. Transfer portal. It's been open for baseball. Of course, with Tennessee's season ending yesterday against Arkansas, they're going to be active. Tony Vitello was quoted as saying, got to go get guys. We're going to talk about that right now. Make sure you hit the like. If you know anybody they've not found the channel, share out the content. Let them check it out, see what they think. If you're a returning listener or first-time listener as well, hit that subscribe button if you like it. And leave me a comment, too. Let me know your thoughts on the video, the presentation, all that along the way. We got to go get guys is what Tony Vitello says. They lose a lot of guys. Tennessee's going to lose. I talked about that earlier this morning, recorded video, put it out. I will link that at the end. As Tennessee is expected, really your main guys for your pitching staff that you're expecting back's Dylan Loy. And hopefully you can keep your freshmen, Coons and Krenzel, in the fold too. And, the bottom line, you've got to do what you can to keep those guys. They're vital for next year on it. Also, you look at the lineup. You're going to lose 7 out of your 9. I really feel confident you'll lose 7 out of 9 to the draft. I mean, there's a couple that you could look at, see maybe not get drafted. I think you put up those numbers they put up this year for Tennessee, somebody will take them at some point, and there'll be enough of a bonus where they're not going to come back. They won't be able to make that NIL money, in my opinion. I've seen that enough. Hunter Inslee surprised me last year that he straight up come back, so he must have known his feedback on where he was at. But looking at it now, Pete Nakos of On3 put an article out today talking about Tennessee and their activity in the portal. He mentioned specific names, and it seems like there's the possibility of a commitment not too far away, and that's Brady Frederick of ETSU, Southern Conference Pitcher of the Year this year. We saw him back on March 18th when Tennessee beat them. So we know what he's a side armor. He kind of reminds you of A.J. Causey from last year a little bit, maybe even a little more submarine possibly, but this year he was 2.55 ERA, 9-2, 32 appearances, 81 and a third innings, 81 strikeouts. Opponents hit 180 on him. And it says, according to Nakos, Frederick has entered the portal with a do not contact tag. He's a sophomore. He's 20 years old. He's from Knoxville, played at Bearden. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together here. This seems like a pretty good matchup for Tennessee and for Brady Frederick right here. But it doesn't mean Tennessee's the only program in the fold either. Normally these do not contacts, there's already been some communication going on, possibly third party, or maybe even Frederick's making the contact. Bottom line is he probably has a good idea where he's going, and he would make a great addition for Tennessee. Another pitcher it says they are involved with is Luke Dotson, a left-hander from Mississippi State. And looking at his numbers, based on what I've seen, he's a guy can hit up in the high 90s. This year he was 3.09 ERA, 23 and a third innings, 34 strikeouts. Opponents hit 214 off of him as well. Of course, Mississippi State with the coaching change, they've had guys hit the portal as well. Virginia had plenty when O'Connor went to Mississippi State. They had some really good players, but it seems a lot of them are following him. But Tennessee is on Henry Ford, who right now, according to what I'm seeing, is ranked the number 1 player in the portal. And I've heard, and Nakos said it, and I've actually heard this from somebody I trust too, that Tennessee feels pretty good about this one. But the thing is, he is a major draft risk, just the same as Clay Edmondson, the UNC Asheville pitcher, Matt Barr, the SUNY Niagara pitcher, JUCO number 1 overall, just the same as Estrada, who's coming from MIT. All these guys are draft risk. Even Tyler Myatt, the Walter State transfer, who's the JUCO Player of the Year, he's JUCO. He is draft eligible. So somebody comes in with the right numbers on it, may be hard for him to turn down. And he said that that's something they'll look at. But he said I got to make enough to live on. And it's the average salary in these guys' the draft is like $40,000, really. Obviously, the higher you get drafted, the higher your salary. Their signing bonuses is where they can negotiate more if they have leverage. But if you're out of eligibility, I've seen the Braves numerous times signing guys for like $3,000 bonuses and stuff. And you either take it or you go to the house. I mean, that's the bottom line. And you hope later on that you get more, because these contracts are only like 7 years or so. So that's they're long deals. So you got to kind of cash in when you can, really, with these guys, because if you stay too long, that was like Eric Radicek last year, who was transferring in. He said, the age I'm at, if I get drafted, I got to go if everything's right. And he did, and you couldn't blame him on that one. But Tennessee, they already have, again, Bo Rudy, Kennesaw State. He's played 2 years, Kennesaw State. He's good to go. He's good to go. He's not a draft risk. He's a guy I've seen, on the VolQuest message board. There's some guys on there that know what they're talking about, have a pretty good clue what's going on. Said that Tennessee really wanted Rudy. So they kind of continue that Kennesaw State connection with Tanner Franklin last year and Rudy coming in 6'4", 225, another big dude like Franklin who can bring the heat. But you're looking at Brady Frederick coming in, could be, a big one for Tennessee right there. That's, again, I'm keeping an eye on that one, just kind of putting things together. Dotson, it seems like, according to Nakos, multiple programs are involved with him. That's the only pictures I've seen currently, but Tennessee's going to be keeping an eye out. There's going to be more portal entries along the way as well. What it was interesting, I was talking to somebody last night, we were talking about it, and he said, I think they got to go for catcher, because I've said it on here. I think Peebles is gone. I think Peebles will go to the draft. Switch hitting catcher. Did a pretty good job. Is he flawless? No. But he did a pretty good job this year. And especially the second half of the year with his bat, he did really well. I have a hard time seeing him not get drafted with it. But Tennessee is apparently targeting catcher, and they're after the top catcher in the portal, Carson Tenney from Notre Dame. He had a big year this year for Notre Dame. He's listed at 6'3", like 230. So he hit 348, 17 home runs, 53 RBIs this year, and 158 appearances. He struck out 40 times. So, a little less than 4 every 4 at bats he's striking out. He had 55 hits, 13 doubles on the year, slugged 753, on base just below 500, 498. That's pretty strong numbers right there. Now, we can always say, well, how would that translate to the SEC? I mean, it always remains to be seen. We've seen guys have success coming over. We've seen guys struggle coming over, whether that's through the portal, whether that's JUCO, whether that's through the high school ranks as well. But this is an interesting target, and it could be a game changer, Tennessee. And Nakos also said that they are looking at the MAC Freshman of the Year. His name is Garrett White, and it said he was the MAC Defensive Player of the Year as well. He hit 406, 48 RBIs, 8 home runs this year. So this looks like a couple of nice starts, especially that defense. I thought the defense at catcher was a little suspect, even though I didn't blame a lot of the steals on Cannon Peebles. As you notice later in the year, the stealing wasn't as big of a thing. Tennessee worked on that. I don't know why it took them so long to work on it, but they worked on it. And I thought Peebles, as far as, cutting down base runners, he did about as good of a job as he could have based on some of the circumstances he was placed in. My issue would probably be the too many pass balls on it. You've got to be able to block the ball. And I had a problem with 2 of them yesterday in that 4th inning that I thought should have been blocked. Now, I don't know where they bounced to, obviously, as we saw with Stone Lawless 2 days ago. But the fact, a couple of interesting targets right there. Tenney would be a home run. Now, obviously, you get Garrett White. That, it looks like would be a really good pickup as well for him. So, again, talking about Henry Ford, Nakos says sources have told On3 that the Vols feel good coming off the visit, but you got the MLB draft. Of course, Mississippi State's where his old coach is at, and Texas are in on that one as well. So it's by no means a foregone conclusion with that one. And this thing that he mentioned, I'm trying to figure this one out here. Timo Berchera was Stanford's shortstop this year. 58 games. Now, he hit 330. Obviously, that stands out to me. 11 doubles, but he only had one home run. 384 on-base percentage, 811 OPS with it. Now, looked at his defense. He had 13 errors on the year, and he only stole like 3 or 4 bases this year, too. I had his stats up, and I took them off here. But that kind of seemed like an odd one to me with Manny Marin coming back with possibly Antigua. I'm curious to see what Antigua does. I hope Antigua comes back and takes the reins of that shortstop position. But, he's a guy, I can't blame him if he's looking at his options because it's his 3rd year here. Interesting one there. And Nakos, he says point blank on it. And I'm quote, he says, Brashera has also emerged as a top name on Tennessee's transfer portal board. So I don't know. I mean, obviously you see the average there. That one's an interesting one to me. It really kind of doesn't match up. But obviously the staff, there's something they like. And I'll trust Tony Vitello on his evaluations and his scouting. He's been really good on them this point. And I think, there's been times it's like there's some guys that I've kind of thought was an interesting pickup, and they end up being, big contributor. There were guys on the national championship team last year he brought in that contributed, at some point that I was kind of curious based on the numbers. So, but that's kind of what we're looking at now. And I expect Tennessee to be active. Will they look at outfielders, depending on what happens with the middle infield? Would they possibly look at third base? I think Myatt may be that third base. Of course, he played second base and he DH'd at Walter State, so maybe he fits in there as well. I expect Levi Clark to play first base. I mean, that's where I think it is. I just don't see him catching at Tennessee. I just don't. Not with the depth, not what they're bringing in, especially if you're trying to bring in a transfer. And if you happen to get Trent Grenlinger in as well, which I still think, if you're rated that high like he is, you get that right price in, unless he's just dead set and intent on going to college. It's kind of one of those, especially with so many top 100 guys. Tennessee will lose some guys to the draft. There's no doubt about it, from their current team and, from their transfers and from their high school class as well. But one thing about it is they're still reloading. They're going to be reloading regardless of who leaves. It's going to be exciting, and hopefully you can keep kind of your core group of freshmen there, because I would guarantee there were some guys not happy with the playing time this year. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it. You come, you want to play, you come in with the expectations. You turn down MLB money to come to campus. You want to play. It doesn't mean they're a bad apple, bad attitude, their families or whoever. It doesn't mean they're bad because the player and the families want their kid to play. That absolutely pisses me off to watch message boards chastise people or try to start rumors about people being bad apples because they want to play. That's I guess the unfair thing about message boards. But the key to me out of this core you got coming back, you got to keep Clark, Marin, Newstrom, Abernathy, Coons, Krenzel. You've got to keep those 6. And there's more. There's more. Don't get me wrong there. But those 6, that's your big-time talent here that's coming back. And there's others. Don't get me wrong. But I'm focused. That's who I want to build around, are those 6 guys. That's a pretty good start. And there's some other guys, too, I like. Grimmer, High, Antigua. Just off the top of my head. I'm not forgetting. I'm forgetting Dylan Loy. Obviously, Dylan Loy's done a lot of good too. But the 6 guys I mentioned, that's who I've got to keep around and build my team around. That's the guy that's going to carry you next year for Tennessee. Make sure you hit the like, the share, the subscribe. Thank you for the support. Bottom right corner. Super thanks. Always appreciated. Check out the memberships. Check out the channel. Patreon, as little as $1 a month can go to help the channel there as well. Have a great rest of your evening. Frank, House of Orange. Last but not least, I'll see you when I see you.